welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Poppy Webber and this is part 3 of I bought a crappy saddle so you don't have to. The saddle that we've bought has arrived. We're going to have a look inside, we're going to have a look more closely at it, and we're going to see why I tell you not to buy these saddles. So sit back, have a cup of tea and enjoy. If you haven't seen the previous 2 videos, then you can watch this anyway, but you might find it helpful if you skip back and watch parts 1 and 2. Now we're filming this in lockdown, so this is my dining table, this is my little desk. First things first, let's have a look at this saddle. Let's start with the panels. So I'm not sure if you can see clearly there, I've made the lights as clear as I can, but it's pretty lumpy. So I'm not sure how obvious this is to you, but there is a massive lump here, there's a massive lump here, there's lots of lumps and bumps. And when we look down here, like the length of the gullet here, it's uneven. So here is lumpy bumpy, kind of dips in there, comes out here, lumpy bumpy. We look side on like this, very lumpy. The leather itself here isn't as bad as some I've seen, I have to confess, but it's still too thin. Can you see how it's quite thin through there? Now, the other rather massive elephant in the room is these stitches here. These are called quilt stitches. So sometimes on saddle you get quilting stitches, and they tend to be, you'll see them here, and they're designed for a number of reasons. Some of it is for horses with a big shoulder to help the saddle flex. Sometimes also it's used to help the rider get their knee in. So these quilt stitches aren't unusual. These, however, all the way up there, very unusual. Why? I'm not entirely sure. What I do know is as a saddle fitter, we spend a long time trying to avoid having lumps in the panel, and these stitches are just making lumps. Now, when you have them here, it's not a problem because this isn't weight bearing. Underneath the tree is weight bearing. So this, from here upwards, is all weight bearing. So these are quite significant lumps in the panel caused by the quilt stitching. So when I do this as well, you can also see the lumps through here, and you can see how not straight it is through here. Can we see that? Another thing is very narrow here, very narrow indeed. I'm going to grab another saddle just to show you the difference in the width through here. So the saddle I'm grabbing is not like a cob saddle, it's nothing like that, it's a very standard normal saddle, so I'll show you the difference. So can we see here, this width here? So this is a standard normal panel on a normal saddle, and the measurement from there to there, between the panels, is 9 centimetres from there to there. This one here from there to there is 4.5 centimetres. So it's 4.5 centimetres there, so that's half the width of a standard normal saddle. So this in itself is a problem. Your horse's spine sits in here, this is very close, it's going to get squished, and you want your horse to be able to bend and to flex. And how is it going to do that when its spine is literally pincered in here? Not going to happen. Not to mention these lumpy panels, hard, really rounded, just going to perch on top. Another thing I've got to show you about the panels is, can you see this stitching here? So this stitching goes there, and this stitching goes there. So I'm going to run my fingers along the stitching at the same time, and you're going to tell me if you think that they go in the same place. So can you see that this stitching is here, this stitching is here. So this stitching is much further out than this stitching. So the panels are incredibly uneven, which means that when you sit this on your horse's back, instantly you're at a place of unevenness. Look, different shaped panel there compared to there. Completely different. This is all bulging out the side, the line sits here. So this line of the, so this is called the rear gusset, this bottom line of the rear gusset sits on your horse, bottom line of the rear gusset sits out the side here. So that in itself is causing unevenness. So I don't know if you saw the first videos, I said about the stitching around the welting often being a bit dodgy. So can you see how clear the stitching is here? So this here is a welting, which on this saddle is just plain, but on some saddles it's funky coloured. And this here, that's stitching around the bar, so you can see how it kind of puckers in. That's because this leather is so icky and so little thought has gone into the workmanship that you can see these stitches around here. You see that? So another thing that we look out for is the symmetricalness in the tree. You can see it in the seat. So here we are looking straight down the saddle here. Can you see that this here is not symmetrical? There's more here than there is here. Yeah? We see that? Drops away that way, comes flat that way. So that dropping away means instantly, as soon as you get on this horse, your left seat bone is dropping down more than your right seat bone because the saddle itself is dropping away like that. And that's the tree itself there. Hopefully when we dismantle the tree, we'll be able to see it within the tree as well. Now, can you see that on the twist of the tree, so this bit here, it's coming in much more on this side than it is on this side. Yeah. So when you look down here, the shape of the back is uneven, and then you have that twist there coming in more that side than that side. That was a quick look on the outside, so let's have a look on the inside. Now I'm not in my workshop, so I've not got my special leather knife, so we're having to make do with a scalpel, so I could perform some surgery whilst I'm here as well. Let's have a look inside. But first of all, these stitches on here that hold your saddle together are not great. There we go, so we've cut the head open, we've taken the head out. So this is the inside. Ew. 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 Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, let me... This is like the thinnest metal. I think it's the thinnest metal I've ever seen on one of them. As I was undoing it, I was thinking, oh, actually, not too bad. And then I've opened it up, and the metal on the head here is the thinnest metal I think I've ever seen. I've got another tree, and I'll show you how it should look and how this one actually looks, because it's pretty flimsy. It looks like it's made out of a can of baked beans. Perhaps it is. Ew. So there we go. This is a panel, this is the tree. We're going to put the tree to one side for a second and have a look at this panel. Here we go, here's the panel. So first things we can see is that it's really not nice leather. You probably can't see that on there, but you have to trust me, it's not nice leather. So let's look in here. Well, I can see through some of these holes here that the flocking isn't proper flocking. So let's take it to pieces. Actually, whilst we're here, let's have a look and see how even the panels are. Not very at all. So let's have a look. So this panel here, across here, measures in at 11 centimeters, and this one measures in at 12.5 centimeters. So this panel already much wider than that panel. I swear to God, something just flew out of it. Oh. My hands are filthy just doing this. Right, let's get inside this panel, shall we? So I'm going to open up to see what the flocking is like. Oh, that's nice. That's all Hessian lined here, can we see? So this here is the Hessian lining. This here is the panel. Now bearing in mind this saddle has never been on a horse, I'm not sure how that's quite so compacted. But let's get a handful of, let's try and get a handful of this flocking out. So when we look at it, has anyone here got a carpet, like a fibre school? Is this like you could actually use this as a school surface? So when we look at this and we pull it apart like that, look, it's very short fibre, yeah? The shreds. It's really, it's bits of straw, some string in there. Don't know what that is. It looks like, oh, some string. See how short it is when you do that? It just shreds. So we compare that. So this is the flocking that we use in saddles. This is proper flocking. Look at this. See how that? And because of that, it means it has bounce. So when you compare that, ready? To that, the difference. This is what's in a proper saddle. This is what's in a cheap leather saddle. You see it? It's horrific. We can also use white wool. So this is what's called long fibre white wool. Again, lovely looks. In a good quality English leather saddle, you would get this flocking or this flocking usually. You see how nice and soft they are, how bouncy they are. Even when compacted into the panel, they're springy. This is not even the same ball game as this. It doesn't even deserve to call itself. I don't know if you can see the dust coming on. You see? That is literally, it smells of dead people. I am wondering there's animals in this. So that's the flocking. It's gross. I don't think we need to look at the flocking anymore. Other than to say, it should look like this or like this. Instead, it looks like this. It should pull apart like this. Instead, it pulls apart like this. I actually think this is carpet. I think this is shredded carpet in this one. I've seen worse. I've seen sweet wrappers. I've seen crisp packets. I've seen like rags that were covered in blood, as if someone cut themselves whilst making the saddle and just shoved the rag in there. Yeah, so, and I'm sure an awful lot of other saddle fitters will agree, they've seen some really horrific things inside these saddles. So this is gross and as smelly and as full of creepy crawlies as it is not the worst we've ever seen, but it's pretty grim. And this is what they are, because this costs lots of money. Trust me, I know I have to buy it like 25 kilos at a time, and it's crippling financially. This does not cost a lot of money because it's like a dead person's carpet. It's gone through a shredder, probably free. And that's how they can afford to make these saddles that cheap, because they don't have to buy nice flocking. Now let's look at the tree half of the saddle. I have to go and wash my hands before doing the next bit, because that whatever's in that saddle is pretty grim. Just me spraying my dining table with antibacterial spray. That was gross. That's all the dust out of the flocking. Let's get back to the tree half now. Here we go, here's the tree. Put my finger in something gross. Here's the tree. I'm going to take this bit of leather off so we can see the tree more clearly. Well, that was interesting because most of the nails are completely rusted through. So this here is the tree of the saddle. This bit of metal through the front, the head here, is so thin, it's literally like a baked bean can. And because of that, all 5'4" of me can actually move it. So in theory it's not broken, but it's so flimsy that I can move it with my hands. This is what gives all the strength and the structure to the front of the saddle. This should be strong, unbendable, no movement in it at all. If you think of when you have a rider's waiting, you have the girth up, you have a horse moving, this has to be really strong, because if there's any movement in here, it causes pinching through the horse. Can you hear that noise? That clicking noise? That's the rivets. So these here are the rivets in the tree. They are not proper rivets, they're almost like nails rather than proper rivets. They're not big enough, they're not strong enough, they are going to break at any given point, because me just doing that with my hands can make them move. So they stand no hope against a horse. So this here is what I mean by the head of the tree. So can you see this metal here? That is less than my nail thick. Can you see? It's also painted, and maybe they painted it to make it look pretty. They failed. Right, so very thin metal here. Now let me get one to show you that's got proper metal on it, so you can see what a proper tree head should look like. This here is what the head of a tree should look like. So can we see how much thicker this metal is here? How thick it is here. Much thicker when you compare this to that little flimsy bit of metal there. There's no way that little old me could make this move. Lots of ways little old me can make that move. So this here is nowhere near as substantial as this here. Can we see that? Also, another thing about under here is when we look at this wood here, this is just bare soft wood. When you look closely at it, you can see, for example, there's already a crack here. This crack here is because this half-assed attempt at a rivet has been put in here, and it's caused a crack here. This is cracked already. This is bare soft wood. It's awful. Can we see? Bare wood. Now, a wooden tree should be made of wood, for example, like this, where it's got this lamination, lots of layers of wood, glued together with a special adhesive, which then gets covered in material to make it much solider. So, bare wooden tree, soft wood. Proper tree, nice wood, laminated, lots of layers. Is that called lamination? Later, no, I can't remember. Lots of layers, then covered. Yeah? You can see how this is going to be an awful lot weaker than them. Usually at this point, we all in horror as we see lots of nails sticking out. But I have to say, whilst this one has a lot of nails going the correct way in, it doesn't actually, I can't see any facing the wrong way out. So that's one good thing. One good thing we can take away from this saddle. It hasn't got any bare nails sticking the wrong way. It does have the completely wrong tree. The tree it does have is twisted. The metal in the head I think has been made from a baked bean tin or similar, but it doesn't have any nails sticking out the wrong way, so that's a bonus. Now, let's move on to these girth strap webbing things. So can we see that all three straps are attached to the same bit of webbing? Now, in this saddle's defense, this webbing is of a nylon type. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it certainly looks to be of a nylon type, which is good, because often in these saddles you see them made out of very plain cotton, very weak cotton. So these are slightly stronger, that's good. But they are all, it's got something really disgusting that I keep touching. Bleh. Bleh. But they are all the girth straps are attached to the same one bit of webbing. So if your webbing were to snap, which it can, especially when it's against this bare wood, we've got really unfinished, if I do that enough, I guess engrossed on my fingers, but I also get splinters. That's sharp through there because it's unfinished. So that unfinished tree rubs against that. So as you're riding, this happens, and that rubs and wears, and then this can snap so easily. And if this snaps, all of your girth straps come off. Your actual girth falls off. Now, when you look at these straps, you might be fooled into thinking they're nicely stitched because they've got loads of little stitches coming up here. But when you actually look higher up here, you see that the stitching itself, they've got a very small handful of stitches on here, and they are not very thick thread. So the thread itself would be dead easy to break. So it's not very thick thread at all. So it's not very thick thread at all there. Can we see? Ooh. I'm just going to take this flap off here so that we can get the stirrup bar and have a look at what the stirrup bar's like. So, flap is off. Let's have a look in here. This here is a stirrup bar. This here is the point. This is called the point of the tree. So, one thing that makes it a bit crap is that it's not a flexible point, it's a solid point. It's pretty straight facing, it doesn't face backwards at all, it will dig into the back of your horse's shoulder. So to be honest, that's the least of your problems with this saddle. It's just awful. So here's the stirrup bar. Let's see how many rivets it's attached with, see if it will pass any BS safety standard thingies. So, in order to, oh my god, there's a maggot. Hang on. Oh my god, that's gross. There's a maggot just gone down there. It's hiding. It was an actual crawling thing. Oh my god, that's so gross. So, the maggot escaped into the saddle. I now know there's a maggoty thing. I'm not quite sure what it was. It was like a cross between a maggot and a caterpillar. It's giving me goose pimples. Oh, it was like a maggot but a caterpillar at the same time. It was like that into the saddle. And now I don't want to touch the saddle anymore. But I have to, so I will. Where was I? I can't even remember. Stirrup bars. Stirrup bars, in order to comply with British standards and indeed just to be safe, need to be made out of certain types of very strong metal. This one here, and they also need to be riveted on so that they're strong. There should be no movement in your stirrup bar. With my little thumbs, I can wiggle that stirrup bar. You see that? It's loose and it's wiggly. It's riveted on to the tree here. It's riveted onto the tree here, 2 rivets there and 1 rivet just in there, but they're very small rivets, and they also need to be made of certain material, which these aren't, and the stirrup bar itself needs to be made out of much stronger steel. This is so flimsy, so really flimsy. Not the worst I've seen, I have to say. Sometimes you see them, you push them and you hear that? Sometimes you push them and they just go boing, boing. This doesn't do that, but it's still pretty grim. But the grimmest thing is that maggot, for sure. So when I did the Facebook Live earlier on, Donna Harvey asked about the stirrup bars. So here is one that complies with British standards. Can you see it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 rivets holding it to the tree, and it's absolutely solid. There's no movement in this whatsoever, none. I can't make any part of it move. It's solid. I'm just gonna get the camera off. When you look from above, this is a proper stirrup bar. Proper, solid, can't move it stirrup bar. This is little flimsy McFlimsison. Can we see the difference? So nice, solid metal, flimsy little wiggly one. Let's run through the delights that we found in this saddle then. So first of all, we looked at the panels. and we found them to be very lumpy. We found the material to be wool, and we found the flocking inside to be utterly grim. That alone, not worth putting on your horse's back. This here was far too narrow, pinched your horse's back. The panels were uneven, so as soon as you put your bum in the seat, you're sitting unevenly on your horse. The tree itself, the saddle itself, we saw that the seat was twisted, didn't sit evenly. We looked inside at the tree. We saw that it's made out of completely the wrong wood. It's not laminated, it's not anything. It's got woodworm. Ew! That's what that little wiggly thing was. It's woodworm. That's extra gross. So that's what happens when you don't treat the trees, you see. It's a little woodworm coming from another country, coming all the way over here. I live in like a 500-year-old house with a timber frame. We're probably going to get woodworm now from that little one that's just escaped. Ew. Girth straps were all on the same bit of webbing, although on this saddle I have to say the webbing was at least webbing and not just a sheet of cotton. Girth straps were webbing backed, which is a sure sign of ickiness. They were stitched on with the wrong stitching, the wrong thread. And then the head of the tree was made out of this lovely painted metal, which is about the same thickness as a baked bean tin. There is nothing about this saddle that warrants putting it on your horse. When I sit it down here, sitting on this tree, you see this rock? The tree shouldn't do that. The tree should be flat. Oh, I can feel woodworm falling all over me. The tree shouldn't do that because the tree shouldn't be twisted. This is what you get when you buy a cheap saddle. If your budget is £400 for a saddle, that's fine, that's cool. We all have budgets, there's no problem with that at all. But you're much better off going to your saddle fitter and telling them your budget. There are companies that do really lovely saddles that you can pick up second-hand for £400, £500 instead of buying something like this. You're so much better off to get your saddle fitter out and to get a second-hand, good quality saddle. I know I go on about them a lot, but Ideal Saddles, for example, do a massively wide range of trees, a massively wide range of saddles. They've been around for pretty much forever, so you can get their saddles second-hand. Oh my god, they're coming out of your ears. Kenton Masters, Thoroughgood even. You can get a really good second-hand Kenton Masters saddle for about £400. So there is no need to go and pick up one of these and think, oh, I've got myself a new saddle, because actually what you're buying is a death trap. Say 100% my hand on my heart here, this saddle will hurt your horse's back. This saddle is twisted, it's going to sit your weight unevenly, it's going to pinch through his spine, the tree is going to break within seconds of riding. This saddle must not go on, well, it's not going to go on a horse's back now because I'm sure as hell not putting it back together. But yeah, this saddle should not go anywhere near a horse's back, ever. It's now 11:20, so I'm going to put all of this away. I'm going to wash myself from head to foot. I'm going to go and break the news to my husband that I've given the house a woodworm, and then I'll go to bed. So, good night, take care, hope this was useful, and I'll see you really soon. But again, if you've got any questions, then please just pop a message below or pop a comment below, and I will try and get it answered for you. Equally, if you've got any ideas for any future videos, then give me a shout. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all of that kind of gumph, and I will see you really soon.